All right, welcome everybody. I will now call to order this meeting of the Village of Germantown Board of Zoning Appeals. Madam Clerk, if you'd call the roll, please.
Tim Edwards,
Here.
Member Jim Hansen,
Here.
Member Christine Huber. Here. Member Kevin Shedrin.
Here.
Chairman Barry White.
Here. All right, our first order of business relates to the minutes from our August 11, 2021 meeting. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes? Anybody have any corrections? All right. Then is there a motion? Motion having been made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Wait, are you voting or did you have a comment?
Myself because I did not attend that meeting.
Oh, fair enough. All right. Then those who are not abstaining, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, none. Abstentions, 2. The minutes are approved. We'll now move on to our only public hearing scheduled for tonight. The purpose of this hearing will be to hear any and all parties, their attorneys or agents, for or against a variance appeal filed by Fred and Laura Wells, property owners, who are requesting a variance from section 17.41, paren 1, paren small b, of the village's zoning code to exceed the permitted square footage of accessory structures in the RS1 single-family residential district by 65 square feet in order to construct a 170 square foot addition to the existing detached accessory building for their property located at W220 and 10800 Amy Bell Road in Colgate. Mr. and Mrs. Wells? All right, welcome. The way that this works is it's your hearing, and so you're certainly entitled to run your hearing any way that you would like. We try to make this process as easy and unintimidating and painless as we can. And what we have found over time is what usually seems to work best for the people requesting a variance is if we have the zoning administrator go first and explain the zoning code and explain what the issue is, and then allow you folks to go ahead and do, run us through those things that are on your application, those things that were required by both the ordinances and Wisconsin law to find before we are legally able to grant your variance. With that said, if you guys want to go first, you're certainly welcome to do so. All right. With that, then, we will hear from Zoning Administrator Zantz. If you would raise your right hand. Well, go ahead and state your name for the record.
My name is Emily Zant. I'm the Associate Planner and Zoning Administrator.
All right. If you would raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right.
So the subject property is located on the east side of Amy Bell Road, approximately a half-mile north of Willow Creek Road. The parcel is set back approximately 500 feet from Amy Bell Road. In February of this year, the property owner was advised that they would need to obtain a variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals in order to construct a proposed 170 square foot addition to the existing detached garage or accessory building. That would be 65 square feet larger than the maximum allowance of 864 square feet for this property. Section 17.411B of the zoning code, which I've put a copy on your desk this evening, regulates the number and size of detached accessory buildings in residential districts. Something unique about this property is that the Wells property is in an RS1 Plan Development District. This Plan Development District is consistent with the RS1 Single Family Residential District, as it allows up to 2 detached buildings totaling not more than 2% of the total area of the property, or if there's no attached garage, which is the case here, 864 square feet. Whichever is larger. So the 2% or 864 square feet, whichever is larger. In this case, it's the 864 square feet. This lot was created as part of one of the first PDDs, or Plan Development Districts, in the village back in 1972. Something that's I want to point out in the code today, current village code requires that newly created lots in the RS1 district be a minimum of 5 acres in size. With 5 acres, property owner would be permitted up to 2 accessory structures totaling no more than 4,356 square feet, or 2% of the lot size. So this is CSM 626, which was recorded in 1972. The Wells property, which is highlighted in red for you, it's parcel 1 of the 4 parcel CSM. Originally, parcels 1, 2, and 3 were planned to have homes constructed on them, and the 3 owners would own equal shares of the remaining 18, almost 19 acres in parcel 4, which surrounds each of the 3 parcels. Since that time, only 2 houses have been constructed, one on parcel 1, which is the Wells property, again highlighted in red, and parcel 3, which is currently owned by the Segrins. The Wells and the Segrins both own equal parts of parcel 2, so there hasn't been a house built on that. They own equal parts of that. And parcel 4. So in addition to the 0.52 acre parcel, the Wells own half interest in a total of 19.469 acres. As part of the RS1 PDD, there are restrictions on parcel 4, which require it to be kept as open space and owned in common by the property owners of lots 1 through 3, and in this case, just 1 and 3. These restrictions also make it unbuildable for a single family dwelling. There's a lot of wetland and wet area there anyway. The proposed addition is located on the south side of the existing detached garage, which is located generally in the center of the parcel along the eastern edge. The existing accessory structure is 759 square feet. There is an existing greenhouse located in the southwest corner of the garage that will be removed. The proposed addition to the garage is 170 square feet on that same on the south side, totaling 929 square feet for the overall garage for the accessory building. So the owner is seeking a variance from section 17.411B in an amount of 65 square feet in order to construct an addition to the detached garage for a total area of 929 square feet.
In that PDD, are the sizes of the lots that have been built on, lots 1 and 3, those must have been specified as part of the PDD, right?
Yes, so this CSM was done at the same time they created this PDD, special zoning district, essentially to allow for these size of lots for the homes. And then this open space that is owned in equal parts by each of the owners of the property.
Okay, got it. Go ahead.
Was the PDD created because they needed variances from the underlying zoning, or why didn't they just build according to the RS1 zoning?
Well, Likely, I would say likely because the RS1 zoning requires a 5-acre minimum. In this case, the buildable area on this property is limited to probably just those 3 home sites. And the plan development district allows you to be flexible with the zoning code, allows you to be creative in terms of the type of development you're proposing. In this case, it's unique because the actual parcel that the homes are on are smaller, but the common open space does provide extra buffering, if you will, from the adjoining properties.
I assume that the interest that the two homeowners share in parcel 4 has to be undivided, right? They don't each have a separate section of.
Nope.
Okay.
It's in common. Yep.
Do you know that to be the case with lot 2 as well?
That is my understanding. Yep.
Okay, and we can ask, and yeah, and we can.
They own that similarly to the way they own parcel 4.
Okay. Any other questions for Ms. Zant at the moment? All right. Well, thank you. Mr. Ms. Wells, you are up. Whoever is going to be the spokesman, please come to the podium. Of course. Only one should speak at a time, though, because we are broadcasting and the microphone is, as I found out, we got to make sure the microphone's on and that we speak into it.
I've been married for over 20 years, so I know when to speak, and
Nope,
I got to push the button.
no, now that turned it off. See, I did the same thing. Got to push it again. There you go. Now it's back on. All right.
How the lot was up, 'cause
Okay.
every time we try to do something, a lot of confusion, as Emily knows.
Well, let's do this. Before you begin your testimony, let me swear you both in. If you'd both raise your right hand, do each of you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this matter will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Okay. And then, Ms. Wells, if you will state your name and your address for our record.
Laura Wells, W220N10800 Amy Bell Road, Colgate, 3017.
All right. And so you wanted to tell us about how the PDD was originally set up, or how the lots were set up?
Just to help you understand that, it's not like we're sitting in the middle of a subdivision where we are, you know, there's like the 20 acres, and out of that, those 3 lots were carved. That one middle one, the original buyer backed out, and so then it just was split between the other 2. And then the rest of it is all shared property. It gives us rights for everybody to be anywhere on the property, basically, you know, which is nice.
And so you and the owner of parcel 3 have split 2, right?
Yeah, that was done, like we have 3 tax key codes for this property. One is for the half of parcel 2, one is for our lot parcel 1, and then the other one is for half of parcel 4.
Is there any type of sort of written agreement between you two as to whether you might want to sell parcel 2, or what would happen if one of you wants to sell parcel 2?
I don't know that it's possible. There are covenants that cover parcel 4. Parcel 2, like if you look at the city stuff, there's a line literally drawn right through it that kind of divides each of us. Neither of us have any interest in, both homeowners don't have any interest in any more development. So I think there'd have to be something done with the city if ever people wanted to do that, because I don't think we could do that. Covenant. Part of what you can't see here is that the property, like we sit up basically on a ravine. So like the front of the property, when you drive into our house from, like you drive in.
Mr. Wells, if you'll just come back for a second. There you go. Perfect.
Do I need to state my name?
No, you already, well, you can state your name if you would.
Okay, Fred Wells.
Okay.
Okay, so this is Amy Bell Road right here. And so they say unnamed road, but that's really the drive.
It's a shared drive.
It's a shared drive, so you come down, you're heading east now, and then you turn off basically to get to our house, and then if you follow this around, this goes back to our neighbors, Scott and Laura Segrin.
Now, on there, everything appears flat, and when you come in on the main drive, it's relatively flat, and when you drive up to our house, it's relatively flat. But out the backside of our house is a huge ravine.
Well, and actually from here down to there, it's probably a good it's probably an 8-foot drop, but yeah.
So even like where parcel 2 is, it would be very tricky to ever build on that because there are ravines in that area. So it would be tricky. And our neighbors are down quite a bit from us in elevation. Like you drive down quite a bit. So, I mean, that's just to kind of give you a little bit of feel for the property.
Are your neighbors Scott and Laura Segrin?
Yes.
Okay.
Segrin, but yeah.
Segrin, all right. And lot 2 is about half an acre as well?
Yeah, all 3 of them are set up as half-acre lots. Which may be why they drew them in such an odd fashion.
All right. All right. Okay, that's helpful. Do you want to run us through your application?
Well, yeah, I was just going to add, I think, maybe one of the reasons that we wanted to, or I wanted to explain maybe just a couple of reasons why we wanted to do this. Or when we had included our paperwork, we had sent some photos along. I don't know if you guys
We
have
have
any
those.
copies of the photos there. So in answer to the questions that were on the application, there's really a couple of reasons why we want to do this. One is the greenhouse itself is an older greenhouse and it's got glass panes in it. And I've replaced them, I don't know how many times, through sticks and the trees and my kids hitting them with baseballs, and it leaks and it's just kind of a pain. So, we said, hey, let's get rid of the greenhouse. And then at the same time, we said, well, what could we do here? Obviously, we didn't know exactly the exact variance that we had, but we said, well, what would be nice is to extend the garage to the east. That way we would be able to make it from a 3-car garage essentially. And we took some more photos here because I think some of the photos we sent maybe didn't show the whole garage as it looks today. I don't know if these help or not, but you can pass those around. So anyway, the point is that with our kids now getting of driving age, that we wanted to have another stall and be able to store stuff, have some more storage. On that end of the garage, if you look, the roof line slopes down quite a bit to where I can hardly stand up on the one end. So we wanted to just, so we said, well, if we extend the gable roof line and just take it to the east, that would give us the additional stall and then storage. And then on top of that, there's a rock wall or like a rock garden, a raised wall, rock garden that we would essentially take the end of the garage to where that is right now. So it's really not extending any farther. I know it's not a building there, but we're not really extending the building any farther or the total footprint of all that any farther into the yard. So where it's facing is east and, to the south. And we're, I don't know how many hundreds of yards from Amy Bell Road. We're probably 50 yards or so from the shared drive. So, and our neighbors to the south, they wouldn't be able to see it. So, no, it's not like, again, as my wife said, we're in the middle of a subdivision where anyone could see this. No one's going to see it. We're not really expanding the quote unquote footprint, and we're getting rid of that yucky greenhouse. So there were a number of reasons why we wanted to do it that way. So,
The greenhouse actually steps down.
yeah, yep.
So your intention would be, once you take down the greenhouse, then your intention, when you expand the garage, it'll be a 4-car garage.
Yep, it's a 3-car right now,
I see.
basically. And then we would just make it another stall.
Mhm.
And then also just have some more storage. So I don't know if you saw, did you guys get a picture of what this looks like, the concept from the
Yes.
builders? Okay. So, that's, we're kind of paraphrasing everything here. I don't know if you want us to go through each of the questions and we can answer them again as they're spelled out on the application. But really, that's just kind of it in a nutshell. We feel when you look at the overall area that we're talking here, the 20 acres, we're really just adding a very little bit to that. It's going to be in an area where it should be inconspicuous, and it's going to be kind of helping us out, if you will, in terms of the space and getting rid of the greenhouse and a few of those things. So
This is a picture like that shows when the Seagrams drive down the main driveway, this is what they see.
Yeah,
So
that's taken
just to
from
kind
the
of
shared
give you
drive.
Perspective of how far they are. There is a letter in there. We've talked to them and they've been over at the house to see what we were talking about as far as we're going to expand it, and they don't have a problem. They know we keep running into issues when we want to do things at the house because of because they only made these properties a half acre. Just causes problems all the time. And we have talked about potentially expanding that and making it an acre, but it's as you know, it would have to be resurveyed. There's a bunch of costs with that. And our neighbors, the Seagrams, are like, we're not interested in necessarily doing it because they're like, we don't really feel like we need it. So that's why we just thought this is a better way to go.
How long have you guys lived there?
Well, we purchased it over 5 years ago. We had some work done. So, I mean, I guess technically we've been living there. It'll be 5 years this June.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
And you guys didn't build the house, did you?
No.
You bought it from someone else, I see.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
The previous owners had been there
oh gosh, yeah.
like 40 years.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. Anyone have questions for Mr. and Ms. Wells? Yeah, go ahead.
So in your tax bill, are you paying for one, half of two, and whatever the common of four is?
Yes.
Yes.
You're really getting 3 tax bills?
We
Yeah.
get 3 tax bills.
Yep.
Yes.
So if this was a 5-acre lot, 2% is the code, right?
Yeah, if it was 5 acres, Ms. Zant told us they would have 4,356 feet available.
Math, it's quite larger.
Right. Right.
So I understand the buildable area. Maybe this is a question for Ms. Zans. But why couldn't the lot still have been 5 acres, even though you don't have that much buildable area? You can put your house on the buildable part and you own a bunch of non-buildable area. It's just part of the 5 acres. So I'm still wondering why they did the PDD.
I think when they did this originally, they did it to pay the least amount in taxes, quite honestly. Because it used to be that 20 acres or 18, whatever you want to call it, it was under a different tax
Right.
thing. And I don't think they were not being taxed at that the same rate as the lots. And so I think that is why they set it up that way
This is
originally. I don't know. if one of
50
them
years
was
ago now or
20
whatever it was in the 70s, but
um, Sure.
I would just add that this is sort of like an early rendition of what we see now today as like a conservation subdivision, where the actual lots are smaller, but that's used as a tool to actually preserve more open space. So if the lots were actually 5 acres, each owner would be able to do whatever they wanted with the 5 acres. In this case, there's an agreement that extra open space, that 18 acres, will remain open and for recreational use only, not buildable. So that's, I think, probably another reason they did that.
Anyone else got anything for Mr. and Mrs. Wells? No? All right. Anybody got anything else for Ms. Zant? Well, we never finished this quickly.
I don't know if that's good.
I don't either. You'll know in a few minutes. All right. Well, Mr. and Ms. Wells, you can take your seats. I will read the letter that we received from Scott and Laura, you say Segrin? Segrin. It's regarding the Wells Garage Edition. It's dated March 1, 2022. It says, "Attention Zoning Board, Scott and Laura Segrin are the property owners of parcel 3, which is the lot on which their house resides. They are also half owners of parcel 2 and share parcel 4 with us, Fred and Laura Wells. The undersigned Scott and Laura Seagren are aware of the proposed addition of 10 feet to the current garage and are in agreement with it. And it is signed by Scott and Laura Seagren, and it's dated, the date is handwritten as March 1, 2022. Is there anyone else that would like to speak either in person, although there is no one here, speak in favor of the requested variance? Is there anyone online that wants to speak? Is there anyone who wants to speak in opposition to the requested variance? None? Is there anyone who wants to be heard on this request without speaking in favor or in opposition to the request? None. All right. Well, I'm getting very close to closing our hearing. And so, Ms. Zant, is there anything else that you want to tell us before I do that? All right. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Wells, since it's your appeal, you always get the last word. And if there's anything else that you would like to tell us before I close the hearing and we begin our deliberations, we invite you to do so. No? All right. Well, then I'll declare the hearing closed and we will begin our deliberations. We have to find, in order to grant the variance, our first consideration is whether the variance will or will not be contrary to the public interest and will or will not be in accord with the spirit of the zoning code. Does anyone have any thoughts on that one?
I don't think it's in contrary to the public interest.
Right.
And the zoning is pretty unusual, but the zoning is, I guess, clear enough that they're given a certain allowance for the accessory garage, so
Right.
it's a little bit more debatable in my mind whether it's in accordance with the spirit of the zoning code.
See, to me, I think it is very much in accordance with the spirit of the zoning code. The minimum sort of, or the maximum coverage is designed to make sure you don't, fully overbuild your lot, right? But they're sitting on, yeah, 17.9 other acres that will never be built on. And no one could really realistically know where their lot line ends and doesn't. So the concern about overbuilding the particular lot seems to me to definitely not apply in this case. I wouldn't, I don't think that's our tough one. I think that's a relatively easy one. But it's just me. I'm happy to hear anybody else.
I agree, and I think the public interest and the spirit of the zoning code is just to protect people from seeing large unsightly outbuildings in an area, and that certainly wouldn't be the case here.
Yeah.
I mean, with the private drive and, what you see of even the view that the neighbor does have when driving by, I don't think, there's any issue there.
Okay. Anybody want to argue about that one before we move on? All right. Next, we need to know whether there are or are not exceptional, extraordinary, or unusual conditions or circumstances that apply specifically to this parcel use or structure or intended use that do not apply generally to other property in the same district.
I'd have to say that there are, just the way that the property lines are laid out. I mean, yeah, I would think it's extraordinary circumstances for sure.
With a shared 18.9 acre common area that can never be built upon, and again, I go back to nobody knows where the lot lines are.
Right. I mean, even if you divide that in half, what they technically do own, they are well within their
Yeah,
scope.
tends to be what I think too.
I agree.
I agree as well.
All right. Next, whether the variance is or is not necessary for the preservation and enjoyment of substantial property rights possessed by other properties in the same district.
Guess I'd say is on this because similar district of RS1 has much larger allowances for the accessory garage, so I don't think what they're doing is really different than what other RS1 properties would do.
When I read this appeal before tonight's hearing, I thought that was going to be the sticking point. I thought that was going to be the hardest one for the wells to overcome. But as Ms. Zant points out to us, that RS1 now requires 5 acres. And again, I come down to nobody can tell if they truly, if parcel 1 is 5 acres or not. They effectively have well in excess of 5 acres, and then they'd get their 4,300 square feet or whatever, and their addition is a tiny portion of that. So yeah, I thought I was going to be troubled by that, and I'm not satisfied by it.
If it really was a conservation subdivision, then we'd have a different conversation about it, but it's not. It's a unique situation with the way their parcels are laid out, so that's, I think it's
Yep.
clear one for me on that.
I think so too.
I'd have to agree.
Anyone want to argue the other side? No? All right, we have to decide whether or not the variance will create a substantial detriment to adjacent property, and whether it will or will not be contrary to the public safety or public interest.
I would have to go back and say, no, you can't see, I mean, even if you can see a very little bit from the driveway, it's not gonna, obviously the one neighbor that would see it supports it, so I'd have to say no on that. And public safety as well. I mean, I don't know what that would really affect.
Usually what we find is like if it impedes, a fire truck coming onto your property, and so I think we don't have any public safety issues.
And my only thinking on that is if somebody else bought the neighbor's house and said, oh, what the heck, all of a sudden my neighbor's garage is bigger, because the ownership may not stay forever.
Right?
So
Right.
I don't know if there needs to be some kind of deed or some kind of, if there's a purchase, that there's something that exceeds a zoning code that would have to be attached to the sale of this property, no matter what the neighbor does.
I'm not following you.
Like if they sell their property, do they need to attach something that would allow the variance of violating or exceeding the zoning on the accessory garage?
Well, I think if we grant the variance, I think it doesn't, I think it runs with the land for forever, but if they tear down the garage, they can't rebuild it without another variance. I think that's right. And they're right, and we're still, how far they are away from the only other neighbor, really. I mean, so, anyone take a contrary view on that? Okay. And then our last question is whether a literal enforcement of the terms of the zoning code would or would not result in practical difficulty or unnecessary hardship to the appellant.
Well, I think it would cause some hardship, because if they wanted to proceed, I think they could pursue some other angle of getting the lot lines redrawn, but there'd be considerable expense to that, especially since the neighbor probably doesn't want to share in those costs. And that would just be kind of unnecessary paperwork and legal work just to get the lot lines redrawn. So I would think that there would be created.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Keyword and I'm seeing is unnecessary. Is it really necessary to have a literal interpretation of the code? I don't think it's necessary to have that interpretation.
Say it again?
The keyword sticking for me is unnecessary. So is it really necessary to enforce the code literally? And I guess I'm thinking that it's not, because of the situation with the common area and the way that their parcel sits. And like you said, you don't really see where the lot line is, and the neighbor's some distance away.
Yeah, I like that argument. Yep, I'm persuaded by that. All right. Well, we have exhausted the considerations, so does anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve their variance.
Okay.
request.
Is there a, all right. The motion having to approve the request, the variance as requested, having been made and seconded. Madam Clerk, can you call the vote?
Member Shedrin,
Aye.
Member Hanson,
Aye.
Member Edwards,
Aye.
Member Huber,
Aye.
and Chairman White.
Aye. All right, well, the requested variance has been approved. I think we still send you something in the mail. I know we send it when we deny it, but I think we still send you something even when we approve it. So the request as you requested is approved. Thank you. All right, that concludes that hearing. Our next item on the agenda is whether or not we will have another if we have another meeting scheduled.
There is no meeting scheduled for May.
All right. With that, I'm happy to entertain a motion.
So moved.
We all know what that is. All right. I don't think a motion to adjourn requires a second. If it does, I second it. All in favor of adjourning? Aye, opposed. We are adjourned.